And thank you. Hello. Hello.
So,
Hello.
Dr. Egar, I'd like the honor and privilege of introducing you before you begin sharing your remarks this evening. And it is truly an honor and privilege to introduce someone who really needs no introduction. Many of us have heard stories of life during the Holocaust. Either we've read it in books or we've seen it in movies, or some of us have even heard it from our family members. But here today, we have with us somebody who lived through the horrors of that time, and rather than let it destroy her, she used it as fuel to build a life, to build a family, and then help others to do exactly the same thing. Dr. Egar was only 16 years old in 1944, but in 1949, she and her young family moved to the United States. And then 20 years later, after she received her degree in psychology from the University of Texas in El Paso, she began to devote her time and her energy towards helping people deal with the ongoing effects of PTSD. Dr. Egar has found unique ways to use her personal experiences to help inspire and educate others through her clinical practice in La Jolla, California, and most recently, in the last few years, through the incredible books that she has written. And as someone who has read her books, life-changing. That's all I can say. If you have not had a chance to purchase and read Dr. Egar's books, I strongly encourage you to do so. The Choice, which is the first book that she wrote and became a New York Times bestseller, has been translated into more than 30 languages. People like Oprah have said that this is a book that has changed their lives and has won numerous book awards. And then most recently, in 2020, she released a second book, The Gift, 12 Lessons to Save Your Life, which again became a bestseller almost immediately. Dr. Egar is a living example of how someone can take their most difficult and challenging circumstances and turn it into fuel for inspiration and growth, not only for ourselves, but for others. And Dr. Egar, this evening, much of the world finds themselves facing instability and uncertainty, though we're definitely not comparing the challenges that we face today to the horrors that our previous generations faced in the Holocaust. Many are feeling anxiety over the current climate, the current environment. And we hope that tonight in our conversation, we can glean a little of that tremendous inspiration that you have so beautifully shared through your books, through your works. So without further ado, I give you Dr. Egar.
Thank you very, very much. I tell you that I've been told that when a midget stands on the shoulder of a giant, they can see further. And I think you and I have in common the Lubavitcher rabbi, who also had a positive way of looking at everything, the philosophy that I adhere to myself, to be a realist, but not really just an idealist. So I'm also needing to tell you that unfortunately we have genocide as we speak, but never in a history of mankind such a scientific and systematic annihilation of people existed. And that's why it's not comparable, because when 15 highly educated people got together and after one day they were celebrating that they found the final solution that they can put 30,000 Jews in the oven in one day. And I am part of that final solution of Eichmann. So I think you and I are celebrating the Lubavitcher rabbi who, whose shoulder that we stand on. And that is such a wonderful family legends that we carry from generation to generation. And I'm very proud to be a Jewish woman whose ancestors didn't have it as good. And believe me, they never gave up. So here we are. How do you find hope in hopelessness? How do you find yourself closer to God in the darkest places? And I am the one who can tell you that somehow my God has guided me to change the hate into pity and feel sorry for the guards that they were totally brainwashed, that people come up with a lie as we are experiencing today too in our country, that what was happening yesterday was totally unexpected and unanticipated. And so I'm glad to be with you today. I need your help. I need all of your helps, how we can find a gift and find the celebration of life, even at the darkest time. And Auschwitz was that place that we had each other and that we had to go beyond the me, and commit ourselves to each other. And that's my dream too, that we can form a human family, that we can empower each other with our differences. So I am part of your Chabad family and will be as long as I live. And I'm so happy to be your grandma. I have 7 great grandsons, and that's really a good revenge to Hitler. So I see that little children are there, and that is so wonderful. I want to show you my card that I sent. I'm holding. I have twins, 9-month-old twins, and that is amazing. I don't know if any of you have twins, and yes,
Yeah.
well, I hope. I love to talk to the Chabad people because here is my card. Let me look at. Can you see it?
Yeah.
I'm holding. Yes, I'm holding 5 of those, and those little ones are unbelievable. They're just beginning to make noises, and they are a handful. They are a handful. And so I am here with you, offering you in best, warmest heart that I can give you at the age of 93 to see how you find God, who really is with us, inside us, in the darkest places, that I was able to somehow look at the gods and change the hatred into pity. You have, I don't know if you're seeing the ballerina in back of me, and I am still a dancer, and my music is called by your generation as supermarket music and elevator music, because I was liberated by the 71st Infantry, and I love the big band. And if you want to turn me on, just give me the jazz, take me to New Orleans, and that's really my favorite. Today, I go dancing, and I love the big band and the Tommy Dorsey and all that. That is maybe in your grandparents' music as well. So I never ask my patients, how can I help you? I ask, how can I be useful to you? Because your life is your life. And I am hopefully a guide to see how you can truly give up the image of you and to be your true self. And I have tremendous, tremendous respect for a rabbi who is not smart, who is wise. And I hope to be also a wise grandma and tell women, you are not a strong woman, you're a woman of strength. Because if you watch Fiddler on the Roof, that is the most wonderful role model of a woman who knows that her husband needs to make all the decision in the world. He's king at home. And guess who makes all the decision? Because she doesn't have any ego needs. She is having a family where she's the heart and soul. So when he comes home, I was there with a rabbi a few years ago. There were 10 children. I never met a most loving, caring family, and there was no competition, no domination. There was cooperation, and that's what we needed to have in Auschwitz to form a family of inmates. Because if you were only for the me, you didn't make it. So that's what happened when I danced for Dr. Mengele, and he gave me a piece of bread, and I could have eaten it up. But I, thank God, climbed up. I was on the top, on the third race, and I shared that bread with the girls. And when I was at the death march in April 1944, if you stopped, you were shot right away. And I was about to stop. I was so weak. And the girls that I shared the bread with came and they formed a chair with their arms and they carried me so I wouldn't die. So all we had was each other then. And of course, all we have is each other now. So I really want to honor you, all the Chabad people, and all the wonderful, loving families, and all the beautiful chicken soup when I get to your place and you invite me on a Shabbat dinner. So how can I be useful today? Because we had the most saddening, unfortunate experience yesterday as the capital was taken over by some hoodlums. And what can we do now to see? The question is not why me, the question is what now?
Dr. Egar, we have joining us this evening people that are of different age groups and different backgrounds. There are students that are participating from the local university, the Chabad at USF. There are community members from South Tampa, from the Wiregrass Wesley Chapel area, from across the city of Tampa. And even though everyone has varied experiences and different backgrounds, I think we can all find usefulness, to borrow the term that you use, usefulness in learning how to deal with some of life's challenging situations and change our perspective. Being able to change our perspective and see the positive, the potential, the hope, rather than the darkness and the despair.
I think it's very important to look at your birth certificate. Does it say that life is easy? There is no guarantee, there is no certainty, but there is probability. And that's why a father is a wonderful role model to the children, the way he treats the children's mother. So my hero is your wife, because I know that she is the one who hopefully that you care for and get up every morning wondering how can you make her day easier, pick up the children from the school, and even learning how to cook. And even though that you don't have the time, but you work together as a team, you work together, and the pioneer woman in America I like too, because she worked alongside of her husband, but not until the industrial society, when a woman became emotionally and financially dependent on a man, where the wife beating began. I worked very, very hard to work with battered wives and finding transitional living centers. So my life did start and end in Auschwitz. It's not who I am. I'm not a victim. I was victimized. It's not my identity. It's not who I am. It's what was done to me. And when a woman comes to me and tells me how she was abused as a child, and she doesn't know how to tell me that because I was in Auschwitz, and I tell her, honey, I knew the enemy and you didn't. So, we don't compare, but suffering makes you stronger. I tell you what I lived, and that's what makes me a very serious scholar who commits her life to see to it that your children and grandchildren and great grandchildren will never experience what I did.
So if I understand correctly, Dr. Egar, what you're saying is that while we experience challenging times, challenging events, it's our decision whether those events will define us or not.
Yes.
We choose how to define ourselves.
That's very, very beautiful. There is stress and there is distress. Hans Selye, who got the Nobel Prize in Stress Studies, says that anything stressful that happened to us, we have two automatic ways to respond. We either fight or flee. But in Auschwitz, that didn't work at all, because if I touched the guard, I would have been shot right away. Many girls died right in front of me, so I knew not to touch the guards, and I couldn't flee because if I touched the barbed wire, I would have been electrocuted. So there was a third alternative, not to ask why me, but to ask what now. And it was very important for me to tell you that it was so important for me to know that I'm 16 years old, and my boyfriend told me I have beautiful eyes and I have beautiful hands, and we were gonna go to Palestine. We had a plan. We were seriously very much involved how to be useful and go to Palestine together. Unfortunately, he was killed a day before liberation. It's in my book. His name was Imre Friedman. And we were together. We had our book club. We were very erudite and very seriously involved to be useful in a state of Palestine. So I'm a very proud Jew. I think that we Jewish people are capable of looking at everything in life as an opportunity, and an opportunity to discover the strength that comes in the darkest places, like Auschwitz. So I love you, the Chabad people. You are totally committed to carry the wonderful tradition, no matter how bad the situation is. It's how you look at it as an opportunity for an opportunity. That's when you discover your inner strength. That's when you discover what my ballet master told me, and told me that God made me in such a wonderful way that all my ecstasy has to come from inside out. I didn't know the word ecstasy at all until Auschwitz. And then I remembered what my ballet master told me, that there are no problems, there are only challenges, there are no crises, there are only transitions. And we are going through a transitional period, especially in midlife. So I don't know where you are with your midlife, but remember, it's not a crisis, it's a transition. Especially now, the beginning of the year, you still want to put things on a scale. What are you holding on to, and what are you willing to let go of? Because that's my definition of love, the ability to let go. Let go of the need for other people's approval. Let go of the need to please everyone. It's impossible. You know, if I get a lot of good things after I give a talk, but then I go to a person and I tell them that I would like to get to know them because I think that maybe we could be friends. And that person tells me that, yeah, it may be a good idea, but that person is not interested in me. So I'd ask people to get rid of the word rejection, because no one can reject me but me. I just wanted something and I didn't get it. So it's okay to be disappointed as long as it doesn't lead to discouragement. It's okay to be angry. It's not okay if you allow it to lead to resentment. So it's very important to know that what you think, you create. So I ask you to think about your thinking and pay attention what you're paying attention to. Any behavior you pay attention to, you reinforce that very behavior. It's very important. God gave us a way that we can pay attention and think about our thinking and become good parents to ourselves. I ask everyone to do that because my parents died in Auschwitz when I was 16, and I pay a great deal of attention asking people that self-love is self-care, is not narcissistic. That's a very, very good comment. And I think it's very important to also know that firstborn children, my son-in-law got the Nobel Prize in economic, um, and I did some research and I found out many of the Nobel Prize winners are Jewish, and many of them are either firstborn or only children. So if you're a firstborn child and you marry a firstborn, you may have power struggle because the firstborn child is and that the way you talk to the children don't do what you say, they do what they see. I beg parents never raise a voice, ever. Children have PTSD that I work with, that you have to be very, very careful to be good role models to the children, that you can agree to disagree, that, in the olden days, when a man came home, he was angry and he wanted to tell his wife, but he was afraid that he may not have the right words, and so he doesn't say anything, but she only has to look at him and says, he's in one of those moods, you know. But you know what happens to that marriage? As they get older, they're very good people, they are good partners, but their two things may not have anymore. They may not have the passion and that kind of a way of being, that they're very good to each other, they're very kind, pass the salt, thank you, uh, but passion and love, I I like to work with people in their midlife that they're not going back, they have a new beginning. So you may want to do that you have a new beginning and see how you can truly be a good role model to the children. And I'm hoping that I can be a good role model to you and recognize that self-love is everything, begins that way. And I hope that you are able to structure your time, that you're working, loving, and playing, and to find a balance, that you have a date and leave the children with their grandparents. When I came here to La Jolla from Texas visiting my daughter, she took me aside and said, I don't want my children to grow up without grandparents the way I did. So my late husband and I decided that we're going to move to La Jolla. He was a CPA. I had a very, very good practice. And guess what happened? Our children left. So today I tell parents, be careful to have your own life, because you may find out that your children will move. And that's what happened to me. My son-in-law teaches at NYU. My daughter is a psychologist. And right now they're here because NYU is closed. So I love the Zoom, and I love the idea that my daughter is here now, and we're writing a third book on recipes. So you're gonna see Hungarian recipes. If you have any good recipes, I'd like to see it, because in Jerusalem, a couple of weeks ago, they did my Hungarian palacinta. It's very good. It's got chocolate and whipped cream. It's very good. So anyway, perhaps when I began to write my book, I was going to write the appetizer as childhood, and then the main course, and then the dessert, that I am older and wiser, and these are the happiest days of my life. I welcome the maturity and the capability for me to concentrate my life on the present. I live in the present. I can only touch you now.
I want to invite Rabbi Penny Backman and Chava, who direct the Chabad House at USF. And by divine providence, Rabbi Penny spent a year in Budapest, in Hungary, serving as a rabbinic intern. I want to ask him to share a question on behalf of some of the students participating.
Thank you for saying Budapest. That's really well pronounced. Thank you. I was in Budapest, and I was there with Philip Zimbardo, and unfortunately, it's very anti-Semitic, but I met up with the Jewish population, and I had a great time. Really, the biggest Jewish population in Hungary living in Budapest. So tell me.
Hodgepodge. Beszli,
Köszönöm, nagyon jó.
Beszli,
Köszönöm.
kicsit magyarul. So
Nagyon jó.
thank you very much for tonight. And I wanted to ask you if you can share a little bit more about what gave you the courage and to help you survive during Auschwitz, and if you can share a little bit of your story. I know for the college students it would be very meaningful.
Yeah. Well, for many, many years, people asked me to write my book, and I said, I have nothing to say. I have nothing to say. And then Philip Zimbardo, I lectured at Stanford, he was a professor there, said, you know, Edie, the people who survived and famous
What do
are
you need?
all men,
It's bedtime.
all men, and we need a female voice. So that's why I am here, the female voice of Viktor Frankl, because Man's Search for Meaning gave me the opportunity to really come out of my unfortunate shell that I didn't know how to tell people I was in Auschwitz because I didn't want people to feel sorry for me. I just wanted to be a Yankee Doodle dandy. I spent 3 years at the Department of Linguistics trying to get rid of my Hungarian accent. And the professor said, you know, Edie, I'm beginning to speak with a Hungarian accent. Get the hell out of here. Your English is what it is. And so today I'm so happy that I am very proud to my heritage and guiding people to be survivors and never a victim of anything, anyone at any time. Life is difficult. Life is very challenging. So what is happening, the difference between stress and distress, that 4 o'clock in the morning, when we stood in the appel, we didn't know how that day is going to be. And this is the difference between stress and distress. When we took a shower, we didn't know whether gas or water is going to come. And this is, you know, the most difficult. Stress is good, but distress is when you don't know what's going to happen next. So, you rabbis, I want you to know that you're the one who is going to let us know how not to ever give in to any lies, to question authority rather than blindly adhering to authority. When Ahmadinejad said the Holocaust didn't exist, he did not read Plato. See, my mother told me, I'm glad you have brains because you have no looks. So, you know, you have to be very careful. That's exactly what happened. I became a very highly educated, erudite teenager. So I am telling you, it was very important for me to realize that, yes, I have good brains and how I will use that. And what happened in Auschwitz, that I was able to realize that fight or flee did not work, and I have to find a third alternative. That we have our genes, we have the environment, but I take the third, how to respond to the other two. Because when you react, you don't think. So I ask people in the English language, when someone is angry at you, you're gonna hear the word you. You are stupid, you this and you that, and you give me a headache and so on. When you hear the you tell yourself, we still live in America, we still have free speech. I cannot put a muzzle on someone's face and say, shut up, don't talk like that. But I can say to myself, the longer they talk, the more relaxed I become. And then I say when they're done, thank you for your opinion. You don't argue with Ahmadinejad and tell him the truth. There is no truth, it's all subjective. And that's why it's very important. And I go to school, guiding the students to really go to class and stay in the class and stay in school as long as they can. Because in America, the more pieces of paper you pick up, more doors open up for you. I am very addicted to freedom from the concentration camp that we have in our own mind, and the key is in your pocket. So I'm glad to see you with your children, and I am just so happy that I can see them, and I hope someday I can hug them and touch them and let them know that there is a generation legacy, that they're carrying the blood of most wonderful, important people, the rabbi and the wonderful wife who does everything in her power that the rabbi can do. The job, it's not a job, it's a calling. I don't have a job, I have my calling, and I will never retire. I don't believe in retirement. I'm gonna work as long as I can, and I will. I don't believe in retirement.
Are you still practicing as?
Yes, sir. Yes,
Wow.
sir. And I have an assistant, and she's gonna tell you I don't take any more patients, but I tell her not to say that anymore, because if somebody wants to see me 12 o'clock at night, I'm going to get up and see them, because I want to die happy, knowing that I used up every moment that God has saved me, not just to survive, but to guide others to survivors and never a victim of anything or anyone. You're a beautiful couple. You really are. How did you meet? How did you meet?
You had a question.
I just have to say how honored I am to be here tonight and listen to, just to meet you in person. This book has been, The Choice has been a book that has forever changed me. But at the start, I think at the very beginning of the book, you talk about something very powerful, the difference between victimization and victimhood. And I think it is such a powerful differentiation, and how we see our lives and how we cope with just the beauties and the difficulties of our life. And that perspective is, I would love for you to expound on that and explain, if you can, please.
So I think it's very important what you're saying, because every behavior has secondary gains. See, when you're a victim, you're always going to find a victimizer, and it can give you a kind of a license to do nothing, because it's, what was done to me. And I think it's very, very important that victims will find the victimizer, especially in marriage. I've seen the couples many times that goes back and forth. The victim becomes the victimizer, and it goes back and forth and back and forth. It's kind of like the nagging wife with a drinking husband. The more she nags, the more he drinks, the more. So I cannot make him want to stop drinking, but I take the wife aside and I ask her to stop the perpetuation of that mutually reinforcing destructive dance. There is an action, there is a reaction, there is a reaction to the reaction. And I put that on the blackboard so she can see that she is part of the problem. And for him to stop drinking is not for her to continue doing what she does now. So if you want someone to change, you change. It's just like in the car, when I was in Europe, I had a stick shift, and when I had to change gears, I had to release the clutch. You see, you have to be acknowledging that the only one you can change is you. So self-love is self-care. It's very, very important that you acknowledge that. Young people tell me God doesn't make junk. I love that. We are planted here as a wonderful seed, and we planted so we can water that plant and hopefully thrive. And when I was at the Holocaust Museum, I was also on the advisory committee for the Veterans Administration. And I came in on a Sunday morning, and after 6 years, I finally decided to go to the Holocaust Museum. Until that time, every year I said, I've been there, I've done that, I don't want to do. So I went up on the 4th floor, and I looked for the GIs who liberated me on May 4th, 1945. And all of a sudden, I saw Italy and France, and then there was a picture on the right side with a sign, New Arrivals in Auschwitz, Hungary, 1944. Please don't go there and look for me, because I don't know whether it was me, but I thought I saw myself. And the following morning, I went to the VA, and there was a big oval table. I'm the only woman, and it says Dr. Edith Eva Egar. And I wondered, how did that girl become this woman? I think for me, that day just changed my life, because when I was there, I went to the 3rd floor and I saw a wagon, the kind of a wagon that I was in, going to Auschwitz, and people would go in and out, in and out. And I stood there at least 2 hours until I finally stepped in. And I don't know how long it took me to step out of there. So I think the work I do is important, how to revisit the places where you've been and go through that experience, and then you revise your life. And this is the work I do, grieving, feeling, and healing. You cannot heal what you don't feel. And we Jewish people are very good at crying. We cry when the children come, we cry when the children leave. You know, crying is great. The opposite of depression is expression. My daughter calls it Edism. So that's one of them. The other one is, are you revolving or are you evolving? So I like to really, the idea of the butterfly, that you go through the ages and stages of development. So right now it's still January, wondering what do you want to take with you for this year, and what you want to Shiva and let go. Because I understand that the Torah said, after 1 year, leave the dead alone. So grieving is very important. It's very important. As long as you go through the valley of the shadow of death, that you don't camp there or set up household there, because then you're still the prisoner and the hostage of the past. I live in the present. I can only touch you now. but I don't forget the past, ever. I don't overcome it. I don't know that word overcome. I came to terms with it. I call it my cherished wound. And that is in my heart. And I cherish that wound that gave me a second chance in life to be able to be with you and being hopefully a good role model to you, that we Jewish people are men and women of strength, that no matter what happens, we never give up, just like our ancestors. That's why I'm such a proud Jew. It's good to be Jewish. It's very good, you know. I love Sholem Aleichem. You see, the Jewish people were not allowed in Poland to go to public school, so they put them in a ghetto. And Sholem Aleichem says, I love that humor that they had. The Sholem Aleichem says, why is the ocean water salty? And the answer is, because of all the herrings in it. And so I love that kind of humor. I don't care for sarcasm and cynicism, but I like to be a realist rather than an idealist. It's okay to dream, but don't mix your romanticism with realism. Life is difficult. You can make it easier, but it's not easy. Suffering makes you stronger, I guarantee you. Never give up. So
Before,
you have
sorry, Dr. Egar, I didn't mean to interrupt. I was going to say that before we open up the two questions that want to be posed from our audience this evening,
yes.
one of the challenges that we find today in society is that happiness, as I'm sure you know and have experienced, is built on gratitude. Jewish tradition talks a lot about humility and gratitude. And as our world today has advanced in so many ways, and so many of the luxuries are today considered par for the course. They're considered accepted, accepted standards of life. And so our ability to find gratitude has become severely challenged. What's something that you might be able to share with us this evening to help people find greater gratitude in everyday life?
I don't want your children to have parents who are spoiling the child, who buy the presents even before they ask for it, to teach the child that every behavior has a consequence, not punishment. I love you if you bring home a good report card. That's not love, that's manipulation. I love you because you are one of a kind, because you're unique, you're authentic. And we may not agree on something, but that doesn't mean I'm right and you're wrong. I think it's very, very important for parents to be parented by someone like me and let you know how you can fight. It's not important. What is important is how you finish fighting. That what you think that you create. And I think parents create an environment where people can feel any feelings without the fear of being judged. I know because I worked with a white supremacy child, 14, who joined David Koresh in Texas. You're too young to know that. And he told me that America has to be white again. And he's going to kill, number one, all the Jews And then the second, all the N-word and all the chinkos and all the Mexicans. And so I went to God because I think people don't come to me, they're sent to me. And I asked, what is the meaning of that? You send me this guy, what is that all about? And God said, find the bigot in you. And I said, that's impossible. I came to America in 1949. I worked in a factory. And when I went to the bathroom, and I didn't go until I really had to go because I didn't want to miss the time. I got 7 cents per dozen. And I became the breadwinner because my husband ended up in a TB hospital. But I found that the bathroom had signs, and one of them said colored. You see, there is a difference between reacting or responding. I joined the NAACP. I marched with Martin Luther King. So I'm telling that with God. I'm talking to God. I'm not a bigot. I did this, I did that. I sang We Shall Overcome, the mamas and the papas. That was in 1963 in Washington, D.C. And God said to me, find the bigot in you. And not until I looked at that poor guy who gave up all his freedom so he can kill and destroy. And my hatred has changed and provided the environment that he could feel any feelings with me. Because if I would have reacted, I would have dragged him to the corner. I probably would have stepped on him and I would tell him things like, who do you think you're talking to? I saw my mother go into the gas chamber. But I took a deep breath and I said 3 words, 4 words. Please tell me more. Love is time, T-I-M-E. Love is time. And I know in Chabad, every individual counts. I know that you even work with very sick people like schizophrenics and provide them a place and learn to speak the language and meet them where they are, but treat them as if they were what they're capable of being. And that's what Chabad is, my precious, wonderful brothers and sisters. So I can be really, hopefully, a 93-year-old grandma survivor and letting to know that no matter what happens, there is a gift in everything.
Okay, we're gonna invite those of you that would like to post a question for Dr. Egar. You can write your question in the chat box, and then we will invite you to share your question with Dr. Egar. So if you'd like to post a question, we invite you to do so. Please put it in the chat box, and then we will one by one invite you to present your question. Like you said, Dr. Egar, in Judaism, we encourage one another to look at every human being from the perspective of their soul. And the Rebbe was very passionate about seeing people for the essence of who they are rather than the externalities that life often adds to them. And when we see someone from the point of their neshama, from their soul, we see them as a pure energy, a pure life force. And there's no judgment, there's simply acceptance for who they are.
Exactly. That is so beautifully said that that it's all about energy. Emotion is energy in motion. Yes, it's all about that. And I know that the Jewish people don't run away from grief. We have the Shiva. That is wonderful. Whoever decided that it's okay to grieve, it's okay to take off your shoes and cover the mirror, whatever it takes, and to be able to give yourself permission. That's a very good word. You know, what really helped me survive, maybe more than anything else, is my curiosity. I always wanted to know what's going to happen next. I never even imagined, even the way I was told that I'm never going to get out of here alive. I was told every day that the only way I will get out of here as a corpse. Curiosity is wonderful that I was able to take advantage of in the camp. And I was thinking of my boyfriend who told me that I have beautiful eyes and beautiful hands. And I would go to everyone, tell me about my eyes, tell me about my hands. When my sister asked me, when we were completely shaven, and there we stood in our nakedness, she asked me, how do I look? That's really a kind of a Hungarian question. The Hungarian women can be very vain. How do I look? And I had a choice, as you have a choice now, whether you pay attention to what you lost or what is still there. And I became her mirror and I told her, Magda, you have such beautiful eyes. And I didn't know it when you had your hair all over the place. I didn't lie. See, it's what you choose. And that's how we entered Auschwitz. That was before I danced for Dr. Mengele.
We have a
I'm
question
sorry.
here from Nakisha, I believe, if I'm pronouncing your name correctly. If not, I apologize. Do you want to share your
Yes.
question for Dr. Egar?
Yes. Hi. I'm so sorry. I joined last minute. I'm not really feeling well and I kind of slipped my mind. But I was wondering, so I myself did dance and I did modern and ballet for 17 years. And I know that my favorite thing, thank you. I know my favorite thing was to like convey my feelings through dance. And I was wondering like what your favorite emotions were to convey through your dance. And oh, oh, sorry. And what types of dance that you did.
I did ballet. And I combined it because I also was a gymnast. So when I danced for Dr. Mengele, I started with a high kick. I can still remember, and then I did a split. And so that's what I did. But I had this ballet master, that wonderful man who told me that I'm very special with a special talents. And he kind of prepared me that life is about ecstasy and find the light wherever I am and look at everything, not a problem, but as a challenge. So congratulations, I'm talking to a fellow dancer.
Thank
And you
you.
see, we always dance. It's just the kind of rhythm that we pick up. So these are difficult times, but if you tell yourself, I don't like it, it's inconvenient, it's unfortunate, and it's temporary, and I can survive it. Don't say yes, but say yes, and. Give me the but, I give you an and.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Sure.
Nakisha. And we hope that you feel better soon. If you need some
Thank
chicken
you.
soup, just let us know. We can have some
Yes.
chicken soup
I,
sent over
I
to you.
really do.
Wonderful.
Yes, please. Thank you.
The Jewish Peninsula. Yes.
Seema,
Yes, I
Seema, you
wonder.
had a question you wanted to pose?
Yes, hi, sorry. You said that you found your strength was you had support in the camps. You said that you had, especially when you were at the death march, that your fellow inmates supported you. I was curious if you kept in touch with anybody afterwards. Did you
Yes.
keep those relationships?
Yes. Yes. Many of them died who were liberated by the Russians because the Russians gave them a lot of food and they died of typhoid. I was liberated by the Americans, and we had to eat very, very small amounts. And I remember a couple of days ago, I was watching a movie about Helen Keller, and I don't know if you saw that movie, and she was blind and deaf, and the movies with Anne Bancroft. It's a wonderful movie, and she finally teaches her how to say a word, and the word was water, as they were pumping water. And that triggered, that's a very good word, that triggered something in me that I already forgot, that after I was liberated, I didn't know how to have a life. I didn't know how to even sit on a toilet, I became like a little animal, and I didn't know how to write. And it took me months to practice a general way how to go with the ABC, and I got stuck. I didn't know how to write a capital G. I remember the discovery when I finally. So you see, here I was, 93 years old, I'm watching a movie, and it's the triggers are very important. Not to deny it, not to run from it, not to fight it. That I was able to really celebrate a couple of days ago, the time when I was learning to write a capital G. And now I have 2 books all over. Can you start writing now? That's good. Please do that, because what comes out of your body doesn't make you ill. What stays in there does. So that's why I'm asking you, please write whatever you write, just write it down, and then you put it in a way that it somehow makes sense. But I think it's very, very good, hopefully, that you can realize that I go to my children's, grandchildren's, and great-grandchildren's home, and my book is on their living room table. I think that may give you a little push to do something, not better, differently. And that's why I am not a shrink, I'm a stretch. I like to stretch your comfort zone. And if you go in the front door, maybe you want to try the side window, that you don't do the same thing over and over again, because then it's like a merry-go-round. And to be sure that you everything, that it's no end in sight. So what do you want to do? Something differently, and see how you might be able to write an outline as I did. And here I am telling you that if you write a book, I may be able to underline it to you with my comments and have a goal. But when you have a goal, you also have to hopefully focus on what you're focusing on. that will be in alignment to get you closer to the goal. I call the goal an arrow. Find an arrow that you follow. Because when I came to America, I went from Germany to New York on a boat called General House for displaced people. And there was a big storm, and I noticed that we took a sideways, but then the guy came back knowing that we're going to New York, we're not going to China. So I think it's good to have a goal. I call it an arrow. Find an arrow that hopefully you, even if you take a side road, see how you want to be remembered. And I want to be remembered that I talked to you today and gave you a little push, a gentle push, not a kick in a, you know where, you know, a gentle push that look at your life and ask yourself, what now? Rather than why me?
Our last question
Okay.
for this evening before we wrap up, and we really appreciate your time, is from Hillel. Hillel, if you want to summarize your question.
Sure. Hi, Dr. Egar. It's an honor. I'm a big fan. I just have two questions. Your book was excellently written, but what resonated most for me, obviously the horrific events, but what I liked most was how you expanded on your life, and you touch about how things developed for you from your marriage, from your children, from all the events that happen after the fact, which, as you know, obviously drives people. And my first question is, did you intend to do that, or is that something that just kind of developed?
You know, people ask me, did you love your husband? And I said, love. I was very skinny. I was very lonely. I was very hungry. And someone gave me Hungarian salami. See, we grieve over not what happened, but what didn't happen. I didn't have going out and then dating and then dump the guy and then date another one. I didn't have that. So people say, but you went back to your husband. I said, no. When I married him, I was a child. The second time, I was a woman to a man. There is no going back. There is a new beginning, and use the past as something that you can build on. It's not, so love, my definition of love is, you know, the ability to let go and to see that hopefully when you marry, that you become a whole person in your own right. And so we survivors many times married very quickly because we wanted to be normal. And when I became pregnant, the doctor wanted me to have an abortion, as scheduled an abortion, and came over to the house, and I got up, I'm a survivor. I said, sir, I want to give life good night. And my late husband followed the doctor, apologizing that his young wife doesn't know how to speak respectfully to a doctor. I knew exactly. My little girl was a 10-pounder. I could have had a horse doctor. Actually, my little girl came 3 o'clock in the morning, and then the doctor walked in afterwards saying, no, I had a midwife, and that was in Czechoslovakia. My little girl is 5'9.5" and calls me little mommy. And thank God that I had the courage to face the doctor and assert myself. So I want people to question authority rather than blindly adhere to authority. That's what I tell the young people when I go to school. So I'm really appreciating you asking me that question. That was very, very important, that my husband and I divorced, that I wasn't his mother or his daughter, but I was able to be a grown woman to a man. And I think it takes courage to risk. That's a good English word, to risk. And you tell someone that you would like this or that, and learn to negotiate and learn to compromise, because marriage is about give and take and tolerating differences.
One more thing before they cut me off, because I want to ask you this. You, in your book, you talk a lot about Viktor Frankl and how he helped open and give you the words that you were lacking. Can you expand on that? Because you guys do touch on similar themes, but I do like how you give a different spin on it. Can you touch on that?
Yes, because thank you for asking, because we asked each other how we survived, and we actually used the same skills. But he was 38 years old in Auschwitz, 30-something, and he said that he was closing his eyes, imagining that he's in the Viennese lecture hall lecturing about the psychology of the concentration camp. And I said, that's very interesting, because when I danced for Dr. Mengele, I too closed my eyes, and the music was Tchaikovsky. And I was dancing the Romeo and Juliet at the Budapest Opera House. So we went through the same experience, but in a different times in our lives. I was 16 in love, hoping that I'm gonna go to Palestine with my boyfriend. That unfortunately never happened. So today
Dr.
I
Egar,
have, yeah.
no, we want to be
I just
respectful
wanna-
of your time. Please share with us some final words before we conclude this incredible evening.
I like us to celebrate the presence, not to ever forget the past, not to ever fight it or run from it, and see how we can truly live a life as our ancestor did, that no matter what happened, that you never ever give up. There is hope in hopelessness. And I know that it's not comparable what happened to anything, but thank God we are here now. And the question is not why me, but what now? And I want to celebrate Chabad. I want to celebrate every one of you, and especially your little children that are celebrated for the uniqueness, and also the schools that the teachers are celebrating everyone, that no one can replace you if you leave that room now. And that's what I am hoping, that you remember me, that I am celebrating every one of you, because God only made one of you. There'll never be another you. Thank you, and God bless.
Thank you so much, Dr. Egar. I think your third book might be Edisms, because you have so many incredible bites of wisdom to share. And we feel very fortunate that we got to enjoy some of them this evening. And before we bid you good night, we just want to wish you, may God grant you good health and happiness, lange gesunde Jahren, to enjoy your children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren, and continue to inspire and illuminate the world as you do so beautifully. And I want to
Thank
thank
you,
everyone
Sue.
for tuning in this evening. We appreciate your participation. Our lecture Zoom series will continue next month. And we encourage you to sign up for the full slate so that you can continue to connect and grow despite the circumstances, despite the limitations that we face in society today. As Dr. Egar so beautifully said, we can't control what happens around us, but we can control how we respond to it. So let's continue to grow and connect and inspire and motivate each other. And good night. Thank you.
Shalom.
Thank you.
Shalom. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very, very
God
much.
love
Thank you
you.
very much.
Thank you.
God love you. Thank you.
Thank you.